the Chinos again, because there was a moment in my development as a food person and a writer that the Chinos play a really important part in. I don't know if it was the late 70s, early 80s, I had heard about this fantastic ranch where they raised incredible food. And I called Tom Chino and he said, "We don't talk to the press." And I called Alice Waters and said, "Alice, will you take me down there with you? Maybe I could sneak in that way." And so Alice and I came down and spent 2 amazing days here, and doing the famous Tom Chino tomato test, where you go through and taste 40 tomatoes and have to evaluate them for the very best. And on our very last morning, we went out into the fields and helped pick strawberries for dessert at Chez Panisse that night. And Alice and I each got on the plane back to Oakland carrying a flat of strawberries. And you probably don't remember this, but in the 70s and early 80s, the only strawberry that ordinary mortals could get was this thing that looked like styrofoam, was white in the middle, had no fragrance and almost no flavor. And we get in this plane, and it's a small plane because it's going from San Diego to Oakland, and we each have this flat of berries on our lap. And the scent of these berries rises up and fills the plane. And virtually every single passenger got up and came over and begged for a strawberry. And they all said something to the effect of, "I had forgotten what strawberries smelled like, and now I want to know what it tastes like." And as I watched Alice giving away dessert that night at the restaurant, at one point I whispered to her, "What are you going to serve tonight? There's nothing left." And she said, "But how can you deny people this flavor?" And I thought that was the moment for me, the real aha moment of, oh, American food has got to change. We can do this, and we have to get back to that place where we're doing it. And, it's really a thrill to come to, at that time, this was the only place in America where you could get a decent strawberry. And it's extraordinary to me that now there are, wonderful farmers, many of them trained by the Chinos, who are raising great fruits and vegetables all over this country, and that we're taking back our heritage. So, for me, the Chinos have a very special place in my heart because I think they've been a very important part of the food revolution that we didn't even know was taking place. But and I thought I would also tell you just a little bit about how this novel came to be. When Gourmet closed, I was actually not in New York. I was on book tour for the Gourmet Cookbook. And I was in Seattle when I got this phone call saying, "You have to come back to New York." And I said, you want to give me a little hint to why I have to come back? And my boss said, no, this was a Friday, you have to be here on Monday. And I went to New York and was in the magazine on Monday when we were all told that Gourmet was over. And the rest of my staff packed up and went off to try and find new jobs. But I had to go back on the road for the Gourmet Cookbook. I was contractually obligated to promote this book, which I didn't make a penny from, was not my book. It was a very, very strange experience. And I was on the road for about a month. And I came back to the magazine to pack up my own office And you can't imagine what it looked like. It was now empty. It was just this scene of incredible devastation. Other people from other magazines had come down and they were looting things, and there were, you know, broken chairs and big bins filled with, you know, old photographs that were being thrown out. And I went into the kitchen and they had locked it, but not gotten rid of all the food. So it was like kind of, it was really horrible in there. And I was so depressed that I went into the one place in the entire part of the magazine that was not completely destroyed, and that was the library, which I had locked up. And, you know, the library it was just an office in a, you know, a very soulless steel and glass building. But I went in there, and it was just such a relief to be in a place that wasn't, it hadn't been trashed. And in the very back, I saw a stainless steel cabinet I'd never seen before. And I opened it up, and every letter that the magazine had ever gotten was in there. Now, they weren't great letters. I mean, most of them were complaints or recipe requests. But, you know, I thought, I bet if you went through this, there's a great history of American food buried in here. And I went back to my office, and I sat down, and I don't know where it came from. It was just, you know, one of those gifts you sometimes get when you're a writer. I sat down and wrote the letters from Lulu. I mean, they were the letters I wished I had found in that case. And there are letters from a little girl in Akron, Ohio, to James Beard, who in fact had worked at Gourmet, asking, during World War II, asking for help in cooking. And so that's really sort of, that was the beginning of the novel that turned out to be delicious. I didn't write it right away, but a year later, when I was really ready to start the book, I had these letters, and I sort of built the book around it. So I'm going to let you get out of the sun. It's very hot out there, but I hope you enjoy the book, and thanks a lot for coming.